Aloha and welcome to the Secret Art of Huna podcast, where I'll be sharing how to use Huna, the carefully guarded spiritual, energetic and healing practices of the ancient Hawaiians, to help you transform those bits of your life that aren't working, to help you find your purpose, or maybe just to help you dump emotional baggage. I'm Dr. Jane Lewis, and 20 years ago I was burnt out, depressed, unfulfilled, disappointed, directionless and deeply, deeply miserable. Huna enabled me to change all that, and so I now share it with whoever wants to experience a more joyful, fulfilling life. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Aloha, and welcome to this Secret Art of Huna conversation about taking control in crisis and in times of change. So the reason that I wanted to talk about this today, and for those of you, by the way, who don't know me, I'm Dr. Jane Lewis, and I have the Secret Art of Huna Facebook group, and I work with Huna. Hi, Chantal. I work with Huna to enable people to really make the transformations in their life that they want to. But the reason that I wanted to talk about taking control of your life in these times of crisis and change is that as I look around, I'm seeing politicians everywhere. So Trump, Boris Johnson in the UK, but all around in many parts of the world, I'm seeing politicians talk about the need to take control of the virus. Now, if you know anything about the way that viruses behave and replicate, the idea of taking control with them is a little bit, well, let's just say it's a little bit of political language. However, there are things that we can do to control in this current situation of COVID. And they are around our reaction to the situation, our reaction to the environment and things that are happening around us and to us. And that's what I wanted to focus on today, because as human beings, we need an element of control at a neuropsychological level. We know that control is really important. Hi, Janet. We know that control is really, really important. So how can we get that control that is so important for us? Now, we can't control everything. It's not like that. And we need scope for creativity and we need scope for some uncertainty. But we need, as human beings, to feel that we have some level of control. When we feel out of control, it can be extremely stressful. It can create anxiety. And that then generates a whole pattern of behavior, which isn't necessarily useful. So having some sense of control is really important. Now, what do I mean about taking control? Well, basically, there are cycles that we can intervene in the way that we react to things. So something will happen, an event. It could be that somebody in your family gets corona. It could be that something happens to your business. For example, the numbers go up or the numbers go down. It could be that you're put into furlough. Whatever the event is, all the time we have, and it depends who you talk to, but we have something like 11 million bits per second of information coming in at us all the time on an ongoing basis. And this is brought into us by our five senses, fundamentally, by our sense of sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste. And then it's then processed in the brain. So that's the event. It has to be processed. There's a lot of data. And the brain does this in a nanosecond. And the way it does it, the way it chooses what to pay attention to, is really based on a whole load of different factors. Your values, your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, the things that you say to yourself, your past experiences. There's a long, long list. And it's a bit like a filing cabinet. Either if you're like me and you still have an old-fashioned filing cabinet with little tabs with names on them, or folders that you have on your computer with even subfolders in them and files inside there. We all have different ways of arranging the filing cabinet of the brain. And as the data comes in, we place it in different filing sections, if you like. And that tells us what we want to pay attention to. Now, you can either pay attention to the good things, you can pay attention to the bad things. You can then you can evaluate the event. And as we evaluate the event, we start to make it mean something. So, for example, with coronavirus, you could make coronavirus mean that that the person who's got coronavirus is going to be extremely ill. Trump right now has gone into hospital with coronavirus. Now, we can make that mean a number of things. Some people in the States are making that mean that he's an absolute hero. Some people in the States are making that mean he's an absolute fool. Some because he hasn't worn masks historically and hasn't protected himself. Some people have made it mean that he's going to die. Some people have made it mean that he's going to live and be stronger. We put meaning onto all the events. And the way we make this meaning depends on our filing systems in our brain and our past experience. As we make the meaning, this means that our reaction to it, our emotion is going to change. So if you make somebody having coronavirus, yourself having coronavirus, mean that you're going to be sick or you're going to die or whatever, this is going to create certain emotions in your body and in your mind. And these emotions, whether they're positive or whether they're negative, are going to have an effect on your overall experience and how you behave and how that feeds into the next round of the cycle, the next event, the next experience. So we're doing this all the time. Something happens, we make meaning of it, and then, depending on the meaning that we make, we experience certain emotions, and that then influences how we behave next time round. So, how do you get control out of that then? Well, what you can impact is the way you make meaning. I do a lot of work with clients where I'll ask them, what is it that they want out of the coaching session, or what are they particularly dealing with as a challenge? And suddenly I get an entire story. Now, this is not just my clients. I do it myself to myself. So I'm not putting blame on anyone. But so the client will tell me a story. And sometimes it's really hard to help the client or myself disentangle the story, the meaning, from the actual event. So recently I've had clients talk about how she didn't get an interview, and there was a whole story about this. So I said to her, what are the facts? Oh, well, I didn't get the interview because no. What are the facts? The facts were indeed, she applied for a job. She submitted the application on time. She believed the application was a good application, and she got rejected. And she didn't get any feedback as a result. So she has no way of knowing why she was rejected for this job. She makes all sorts of meanings out of it. And because it's a rejection, the meaning that she makes is triggered by past experiences of being rejected, her own beliefs around not being good enough or not being good, and a number of other similar things. So those old experiences, those old and existing beliefs about herself, colour the interpretation that she puts on the fact that she's been turned down for a job. The facts are she's been turned down. Who knows why? Maybe there was somebody with better qualifications. Maybe there was somebody that the company already had in mind and they decided to go with them. An internal candidate, for example. Maybe they decided not to hire after all. There's a whole load of possible different outcomes that she cannot see because she's locked in the story and she's locked in the meaning. So the key thing when we find ourselves in these spirals of, oh my God, it's too awful. I'm a bad person. Oh, I've been rejected. Oh, I'm going to die, or whatever those things that we tell ourselves. What we need to do is to stand back and look at the facts. So, for example, I've been really lucky in Corona. My business is doing extremely well. But there have been previous years. Hi, Darcy. Aloha. So there have been previous years when my business hasn't gone so well. And in previous years, I've chosen to make it mean a number of things. I've chosen in the past, I've made it mean about me. I'm no good at my job. Oh, I can't connect with clients. Oh, I don't have a high enough profile. All sorts of meanings. And that's all they are. The facts are, business took a downturn. The facts were, I wasn't spending a lot of time promoting my business. The facts were, I wasn't spending a lot of time connecting with different sorts of people who might be interested in what I offer. Those were the facts. But the story, the meaning became something else. So if you're finding yourself in those situations, really get forensic, boil it down. What are the facts in this situation? And what then is the story, which is all the rest of it? What's the story that you're telling yourself? If you take the facts, what other meaning, what other interpretation could you put upon the facts? And you might find that you come up with a very different story and a very different set of emotions, because so much of this is actually in here. So much of this is in our head, it's in our mind, it's in our thoughts. The more control we take over our thoughts, the more control we have over the language we use with ourselves, then the more control we have over our experience. Now, it's easy to say, I can sit here and say this, I've been studying it a long time, and certainly I still tell myself stories. So it's easy to say, but the reality is, listen to yourself. Listen to the language you use for yourself. What are you saying to yourself? What do you say to yourself on a frequent, everyday basis? When you look out at the weather, do you go, another grey day? That means the rest of the day is going to be grey. Everything else is going to be grey. Or do you go, oh, grey day? Jolly good. Good chance to make some nice warming soup, for example. Back when I was doing the whole depression thing, I was told by the psychiatrist that because I'd had depression once, then it kind of predicted that I'd get it again. It was likely that I'd get it again. And for a couple of years, I lived with that fear. I lived with that fear of depression coming back. Every time I felt slightly miserable, for whatever reason, I go, oh my God, I'm going back into depression. When I let go of the fear, when I let go of the belief that because I'd had depression once meant that I would get it again, when I let go of those things, then I could start to experience both the ups and the downs of life without panicking. If on a day my mood was down, I go, mood's down today. Okay, fine. Yeah, that's interesting. Just notice, because that's the other part of the technique. Noticing, just notice. Stand back, be the fly on the wall. I used to teach a technique to kids, which was about being the observer of your own experience. And I said, be the fly on the wall. So when you have experiences, be the fly on the wall. What would the fly on the wall say? Because 9 times out of 10, what the fly on the wall would say about the experience you're having is very different than the story that you're telling yourself. So if you need help with any of this, if you're finding it difficult to break out of your own story, if you're finding that you're not really feeling in control of what's going on in your head, or if you find that, things just aren't going the way that you'd like them to go, do get in touch, secretartofhuna.com/diary, and you can book a call. And hopefully I've got some tools, techniques, and different ways of thinking about these things that will really help you. Meantime, take care, lots of love, and see you next time. Bye-bye. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. If you want to bring about rapid transformation in your life, check out secretartofhuna.com, where you can also download a free meditation to help you with self-forgiveness. You can also look out for Secret Art of Huna on social media such as Facebook and LinkedIn. I look forward to talking to you again very soon.